And we're back. Another episode of the Consistency Engine podcast. Once again, I am your host, Dane Patton. With me, as always, Chase Collier. Yes, if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw Chase flex. So, Chase, it's been a fun week or so. How are things been going on in your life?
Things are going good. Staying busy as always, being productive, not just busy. I will throw that in there. Continuing to plan events and speaking at more events coming up. So it's been great overall.
Yes. Last night you hosted another organization meeting.
I did.
So that was a good time. Lots of good stuff. And while you were talking a lot about experiences and you're sharing about your Cabo trip that you have coming up, and I was sitting there, I was like, man, I should have told everybody about the Consistency Engine podcast episodes that would have went so well with last night's, talked about the experiences. We've had an episode about that, and then one of the last episodes, you gave us all the information about the Cabo trip, so share it with the org so those people know.
Yeah, we can do that. And you got some speaking stuff coming up too.
Yep. It was just announced the Lead to Succeed event at the Exclusion Pro Conference 2026 in September. I'm going to be one of the 6 speakers I was chosen. It's a 2-day event, so I'll be the last speaker on the second day. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That is awesome that you get to, it's your first time speaking there and you get to be the closer.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, that's exciting for me. Well, just, it's kind of almost like every time I've been a speaker, it's been something where I've been an attendee or been in the audience of the event before. And I've always just, when I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is going to be something where I'm going to speak at it at some point in time. And we're making it happen. That vision that we create for ourselves. As long as you're willing to do the work and show up, usually you can make it happen. And this week I'm speaking at the LIBA luncheon. I've been a member of LIBA for many years and sat at these luncheons and saw speakers get up and talk. I don't know how many I've been to. They do them once a month, and I've been to a majority of them that I can show up to, and seeing all the different people that have gotten up and spoke to the group. It's like now I'm getting the opportunity to do that. It's been something I've watched other people do, and I was like, there's no reason that I have enough to share and to pour into other people that at some point I'm able to, and now they asked me to do it, so I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome.
And it's definitely going to be different than most of the speaking events that I've been to, and I've told them that. I said, I'm not somebody that's going to get up there and talk about the normal topics that are normally talked at luncheons and stuff like that. It's definitely going to be something different that most of those people in that audience probably haven't heard before.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of questions afterwards. If you've never seen Dane on stage anywhere speaking in front of an audience, you should. One of the hardest things I would say as a speaker is bringing emotion and connecting with people, and Dane is one of the best people with that. So he just keeps bringing the heat and impacting more people.
Well, I think when you're passionate and you care about what you're talking about so much that it just kind of flows through me and it's easy. I always think that whoever's in the room at that time, they're there for a reason, and whatever that reason is going to flow through me at that point in time. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Yeah, you've got some awesome stuff coming up. I've got some awesome stuff. Maybe even later this year we'll be on a joint stage together. Some more things will be in the works, and we'll be able to share about that later. So it's been a fun year, and I'm looking at my watch. The damn year is almost half over.
Yeah, it's flying by.
Yeah.
All of this stuff comes back to a quote that I say repeatedly to people: "Is it's not easy, but it's worth it." And that's probably a great segue into our topic today of just continuing to talk about fitness and a little bit more involvement, I would say, of how Dane and I train. We are not professionals. We are not personal trainers or any of that stuff. We've learned from a lot of great coaches. We've learned from the internet, from gurus on the internet. But just wanted to hit some on what we do in the gym. That way it might become a little bit easier for you to get into the gym and do stuff if you've never lifted weights before.
Yeah, I think that would be great because, you know, I've had a bunch of different fitness coaches in the past 5 years. Well, not a bunch. I've had 3 that I've paid consistently over time, and they've really helped kind of map out the way that I work out now. You know, I've taken a little bit from Matt, I've taken a little bit from Ed, I've taken a little bit from Fraser, and then I kind of wrap everything into a bow that works well for me.
And what would you say, let's just talk about probably right now where we're at with workouts, what we do, and then we'll kind of backtrack it to where we started and how people listening can start as well.
Sure. So, you know, I think we both are pretty much on a kind of a body split is kind of how we do it, you know. Whether it's a push-pull legs or it's a back buys, chest and tries, you know, whether you're doing quads or hams, you know, or shoulders, you know, shoulders and arms. It just kind of depends on the day of the week. I also like to just do some full body. Like if I know that it's going to be a busier week and maybe I'm only getting to the gym 3 or 4 days instead of 5 to 6, I'm doing more full body stuff. That way I'm trying to hit everything that I'm in the gym for. So maybe that looks like I'm doing some legs and some chest and some arms. And then the next day I'm doing back and some shoulders and some core, something like that. So just trying to hit everything. And I'm trying to hit, you know, each of my muscles probably about twice a week. So is that that's about what you've been doing?
Pretty close, and in a good spot to start for anyone's 1 day a week. Hit your muscle groups 1 day a week, and I'm roughly 2. It depends on where the rest days lie. For me, I do a fairly normal bodybuilding split: chest tries 1 day, back buys, shoulder arms, and then legs and abs, and then possibly a rest day and repeat. But at the end of my workouts, I also do 10 to 20 minutes of cardio, depending on the day. And one thing that I have started to implement a little bit more is probably more mobility and functional training. Is like on shoulder days, start doing some like dumbbell snatches. Do some stuff that isn't just picking weight up and putting it down, but has more joint and mobility piece. Because as we age, our flexibility and mobility goes down. So I've very much started to focus on that. And what else was I going to add? Compound and isolation movements. So getting into just kind of the gist of lifting is there's so many different movements that you can do in the gym. 2 common things that you will hear is a compound movement or an iso or isometric movement. And a compound movement is what most people think of when you're in the gym. It's your deadlifts, squats, bench presses, shoulder presses, rows. And a compound movement just means that it's compounding multiple muscle groups or muscle pieces into one movement.
Yeah, like 2 joints moving at a time.
Yes.
Yeah. So your hips and knees, you know, shoulders and elbows, you know, just think about 2 joints moving at the same time. That's your compound. That's your big, and a lot of times that's your big muscle groups too. You're using a couple of them at a time.
Yep. And with ISO exercises, this is just one muscle group, one joint at a time. So bicep curl, that'd be a bicep ISO exercise where a bent over back row is going to be back and biceps and probably some abs. So I try and make a mixture of compound movements and iso movements within my workouts. And I like starting with the compound movements because those are really the ones that test you. They take more mental strength, they take more physical strength. And if you're doing just, let's keep talking about rows, bent over rows or cable rows, is you're working your biceps and your back at the same time. So when you get to that bicep iso exercise at the end, your biceps are already somewhat fatigued from doing the back exercise.
Yeah. So, and I've had coaches that have taught me to do that way, and I've had coaches switch it up on me too. So I think it just kind of depends on, like when I had a bodybuilding coach, he had me do all of my compound movements first and then finish with all my iso movements. But the coach that I have now, Frazier, he has me do isolation moves first, or lifts first, and then do the compounds. And I, I've done them both ways, and I've had results both ways.
Yeah.
So I think it's whatever you're more comfortable with, and I think it also kind of depends on the timing that you normally do your workouts too. Because I remember back when I first was going into the gym, like at 5 a.m., trying to start with a compound lift at 5 a.m. kind of sucks.
When the sun's still down and you're still not awake.
Yeah, I am not fully awake yet. I have no food in my system yet. I haven't fully hydrated. Like all of that stuff, trying to do a compound movement right away was difficult. And I usually wasn't as strong as I was later in the day. So if I was doing early ones, I was like, well, maybe I'm going to do the iso and kind of get my body and my joints warmed up in the muscles and my central nervous system kind of, kicking off a little bit. So it's like, okay, I need to do a little bit more work. But like now, if I go later in the day, I'm usually, prepped. I have 2 meals in me by then. I've already drank almost a gallon of water throughout the day, and I've had electrolytes and all this kind of stuff. And so now I can start with a compound, and I can get full use of my system. So
and you get a much better pump when you have meals in you. One thing too on whether you want to do compound exercises just in general, or if you want to do them at the beginning or end of your workout, is what I've seen, and don't want to have to be fact checked, but I believe if you do your isos first and then finish with compound movements, you normally are weaker when you do the compounds at the end because you've already worked out. So yes, you're still putting stress on your body and your muscles, but if you're doing it at a lower weight, it's actually better for your joints because you're not wearing out your joints and your tendons as much with doing the compound exercises at the end.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with timing and then what your experience level is when you're in the gym. But I would say, if you're doing, a big thing that I've heard people talk about is doing as little as possible to elicit the most change.
Yep.
And compound movements is where you're going to get that. If all you do is go to the gym 3 days a week and you just go and do bench press, you go and do squats, and then deadlifts or some sort of rows or something like that. Like if that's all you do 3 days, and you're going to get results by just doing those 3 things, because you'll be working almost all of your muscles throughout the week if you're just going to do those.
And it depends on where you're at in your fitness journey too, because if you've never lifted weights, or it's been 5 or 10 years since you've lifted anything, you do want to start slow. The first probably 2 to 3 weeks after getting back into the lifting scene or into the gym is going to suck. Your body is going to hurt, but it's going to feel so nice to get back in there. And if you start, do not go into the gym for the first time in forever and be like, oh, this is what I lifted 10 years ago, I'm going to start here. No, start light, treat your body as good as you can, don't overdo it. Shoot for a minimum of 8 reps per set. I personally like to do 8 to 20 reps depending on what exercise I'm doing, but just doing three sets of 8 to 12 reps on 3 different exercises 3 days a week is going to make an improvement for you if you haven't been going to the gym.
Yeah, and I'm usually in the 8 to 12 range, and kind of how I like to look at it is if the weight that I put on the bar, if I can do it 12 reps, I put a little bit more on. If I can do that 12 reps, I put a little bit more on, and then say I can't get to 12, I can only get to 8. Okay, well, great. Then I'm going to continue that until I can get to 12 on the third set, and then once I get to 12, then I up the weight on the first set, and then if I'm only getting to 8, then we just kind of continue. That's progressive overload, and that's the way that your body builds muscle. And so you're not necessarily going in and throwing as much weight on the bar and trying to do a personal record every time. You're just slowly building up until you get to, okay, I did this much. Now either I need to add more reps or I add more weight to the bar. More reps usually means that you're doing more damage to your joints and stuff like that if you're continuing to put more weight on the bar then too.
Well, one of the guys I follow on YouTube, his catchphrase, his quote is "train harder than last time," and that summarizes progressive overload. If you're doing 8 reps of something, next time you do it, either add 2.5 pounds per side or do 1 more rep. And that also goes to cardio. If you do a mile in 8 minutes and you're going to do it again in 3 days, try and beat it by a second. Like, just train a little bit harder than last time, because it is about that stimulus of your muscle, and your muscles do recover quickly. It's just making sure they probably have 2 to 3 days rest in between hitting each muscle over again. Yeah,
and depending on what you're, are you looking to lose weight? Are you looking to build muscle? Like, what part of the fitness aspect are you looking to get out of what you're doing? And there might be some advice that we give to somebody that's looking to build muscle is going to sound different than somebody that's looking to lose weight. We might say, hey, I want you to do 30 reps at a lower weight. Instead of, if you're looking to build muscle, I want you to do heavier weight in lower reps.
Yeah. And one of the things I just want to throw out there for everybody listening is you are not going to be a mass giant with all these muscles in a short period of time. There's a blend of working out plus nutrition that makes different things possible. And to all of the ladies that are listening, if you start lifting weights, you are not going to get bulky. That is one of the things that I've heard from a lot of women that I've talked to about fitness that want to start lifting or being more fit is, I don't want to put on all this muscle and be huge.
If only it was that easy.
I've been lifting weights for over 10 years, and I am not that big of a guy. I'm strong, and I've gotten stronger, but you're not going to get bulky by going to the gym and lifting things.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I just laugh. I'm like, man, you must have a secret that I don't, because I'm trying to get big.
Yeah.
and it's not working. Yeah, so I've heard that too, and it's so true. But I think a lot of that is just marketing and Instagram, and everybody that you see on Instagram is these giant fit individuals and stuff like that, and that's like the 0.0001% of people that actually go into the gym, and usually those people have some sort of help by other means than chicken and broccoli and weightlifting.
Yes, they're taking supplements that are not normal supplements that help them get there, because their goal is fitness, but those people specifically make so much money off of their following that they need to take enhanced things to look better to get paid more. And you should do things safely. You don't need enhancements, you need proper nutrition, proper hydration, proper sleep, and work out.
Yeah. I mean, we can't talk about lifting weights without talking about sleep a little bit. And I've talked about it before, just about how when I first started getting into fitness, like the sleep was the back burner thing for me. I was trying to do everything else, and then I was getting like 4.5 hours of actual sleep every single night. And even though like I had so much weight to lose, I was still getting some results, but I was kept hitting like these plateaus and not being able to. I was like, well, do I need to take some more supplements, or do I need to do this or that? And I was like, no, dude, you need to actually just lay down in bed and rest and recover, because I kept breaking my muscles down, and then I would heal them, but I wouldn't heal them to the point before I go break them down again. They wouldn't heal and then start building. And I was like, why am I not getting stronger, or why am I not gaining muscle the way that I should? Because I'm doing all the things that they tell you, except actually, no, you're not. You're not resting and recovering.
The biggest recovery thing out there.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to touch on too is mind-muscle connection. So this is something that personally, when I started lifting weights and getting into fitness, I wanted to move as much weight as possible. I didn't care about the way that my body felt while I was lifting. I just wanted to move the weight. And when you can start getting that mind-muscle connection, and for people listening, like hold your bicep and try and flex it. When you flex that bicep, you can feel it in your mind. It's connecting with your muscle. You can understand what that contraction feels like. Same with your quads, same with your calves. All of your muscles know how to contract. And when you are lifting weights and starting on that journey, you should very much focus on that mind-muscle connection piece, because without it, you're not actually breaking down the muscle as much as you could be if you were paying more attention to that muscle contraction.
Yeah, because and I've been guilty of this plenty of times in my fitness career now, and just because I'm a bigger guy and I can move a lot more weight, and I tend to like, I'm going to push this weight, and I try to gather strength from all over the place instead of just the muscles that I'm supposed to be using at that time. So I've definitely over time have to try to like stop and slow down the reps that I'm doing, and then once I start to do that, then I can kind of connect a little bit more. But there's been certain muscles that are super hard for me to try to still get that mind muscle connection, and a lot of it has to do with just kind of slowing down, breathing, and really thinking about, okay, what am I trying to do here? I'm not just trying to move this weight. I'm trying to move it in a way that's going to help me get a little bit better.
And we can get a little bit into some what I would call intermediate or advanced lifting techniques. And I want to dive into that because I do think they help with the mind-muscle connection. Is people out there created what is called drop sets, or trying to think what some of the other ones are. But there's different tempos and timings and things that you can do while you are lifting that will fatigue your muscles differently. So for instance, whether you're doing in any lift, bicep curls or leg extensions are two fun ones to do this on, is get to your last set and like, let's do your normal 8 reps. Okay, you did 8. Now let's lower the weight by 1 or 2 notches. Let's do 8 more. Now lower the weight 1 or 2 more notches, and keep doing that until either you can't lift or there's no more weight to reduce. And if you do that right, like there's been times Dane and I have done legs together that we can't get out of the leg machine because our legs are so sore from doing that.
Yeah, and you finish when it's like 30 pounds on the machine, and I can barely move my legs.
Yeah.
I was like, I can do this full stack, but this 30 pounds now, yeah. And it works because you're taking that muscle to failure just about, and that's another thing that we can talk about too, because I used to lift to failure every single time. I couldn't push any more. But I started to see better and more results, with the sleep, and then leaving one or two in the tank. One or two in the tank means, I could still probably push one or two more reps out, but I put it back on the bar, and then we go to the next one. And instead of completely just, pushing myself, and then that's when I'm like sore every single day and can't barely move. And
your recovery with leaving one or two in the tank is going to be so much faster. And if you're somebody who is an active lifter or wants to hit your muscle groups more often, you shouldn't go to failure. Mm-hmm. If you're more of trying to train for strength or want to do strongman, or you're trying to increase your squat max or something like that, then you're probably going to go to failure more often, but you're not going to train that muscle group as many times as you would if you left some reps in the tank.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, you could go 1, 2, 3 times a week, and you could see a lot of change there, especially for somebody that's new.
Yeah.
So for us, we've been doing this for a little while, so we're a little bit more advanced. So we go more often. But I will tell you, and I made a post about it too. Like, it's so awesome to get to the level of fitness that I'm at now, where I can go in and I can get an awesome workout in like 25 minutes. And I don't have to feel like I need to be in the gym for an hour or maybe 2 hours like I used to think that I needed to a couple of years ago. I'd get into the gym at 5 and I wouldn't leave until 7.
That's a lot of time there.
No, it was. And it's not like I'm sitting around gabbing the whole time either. I'm actually I was doing like 16 different workouts, 3 sets each. I was in there forever. Now I can go in and I can do 3 to 4 different exercises, 2 to 3 sets, and I can get the same kind of workout that quickly because I've understood the tempo and the time under tension and the drop sets and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I can do 1 or 2 sets of something and get the same amount of intensity that I would have when I was doing 3 to 4.
That right there is so much a mental thing. Is that when you have 4 sets to do, you normally don't press very hard on your first couple sets. But if you only have 2 sets, you're like, I need to make the most of it because I only have 2 tries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I maybe we can talk a little bit about, do you ever do calibration sets too? Something, a lot, maybe half the amount of weight that you normally do just to kind of warm up the joints a little bit?
Yeah, so whatever lift that I move to, first lift of the day or last one of the day, I will normally do it at half to 2/3 of my working weight just to make sure joints feel right, weight feels right, everything is good before I get into the working sets.
Yeah, that's been a pretty big game changer for me, is just adding some of those calibration sets in. And that just kind of, like I said, it kind of wakes my central nervous system, my CNS up to say, hey, okay, we've got we're going to need to recruit some power here. So get that in, get the good range of motion so my body knows I'm working in that. And then I'm able to jump right into much heavier than if I would have like the other day, I got the 100-pound dumbbells out. Well, I started with 40s. And then I did 80s and then 100s. And instead of like going, 4 different sets to get to it, I could just jump right into them.
And as long as you know where your strength is at, feel free to do that. I would just say don't always have a spotter, but if you're ever going to try and max or do lower reps, make sure you have a spotter on certain things, because lifting, accidents happen. One of the things that happened to me as I was doing cable bent over crunches, this was 2-3 years ago, and right when I got near the bottom where your forehead's almost on the floor, the cable snapped and I just face planted into the concrete floor and busted my lip, and it was not fun, but accidents do happen, so just be cautious when you are lifting.
Yes, for sure. And that's when, if you are working out by yourself, dumbbells are a great tool to use instead of just doing barbells, because you can dump those real easy, dumbbells, and get out of the way. But I also don't recommend trying to do the heaviest weight without somebody around either. Do something that you can keep one or two in the tank, unless you've got somebody there to spot you.
As I've gone on the fitness journey, I will say that I am not trying to impress anybody with the weights that I push. Yes, it's cool to be like, hey, I just did this weight and posted on social media, but doing as much weight as you can for one rep, unless you are a professional athlete or a strongman or something, then it's okay, but it doesn't matter to anybody, because fitness is for you. So do it for yourself.
Yeah, and I think about it, functionally.
Yes.
What am I going to, am I ever going to squat 500 pounds one time? Probably not. But am I going to need to, pick up some ladders and carry them above my head and do what kind of functional things can I be strong for in real life? And can I squat down and play with my kids? Can I squat down and tie some shoes when I get older and stuff like that, and be able to keep that range of motion, but also have strength to do it?
So why do we do sled pulls and pushes then? Are we moving cars?
We might have to. I've always wanted to pull the plane, Chase.
We missed it again this year.
I know. We'll have to do it. We'll have to put it in our calendars to do it next year. We can pull the plane for charity.
We are committing on this podcast to do the Lincoln plane pull next year.
Yeah. And it's a group of 3, so we'll need one more person. We have to recruit one more person. Maybe we get Dr. Troy in there. We'll have to get a bigger plane then if we bring him.
Well, for takeaways, I would just say think about the fitness plan that you're currently doing. If you are lifting weights, are you hitting every body part in a week? Are you pushing yourself to progressive overload? Do you actually have a plan written out on what you're trying to do? Or are you just kind of winging it every time you walk into the gym? And last thing I will say is abs aren't made in the gym. They're made in the kitchen. I worked very hard in the beginning to try and work out as much as I could to get abs. And it all comes down to nutrition. Yes, you can build the muscle of your abs, but you're not going to lose the stubborn belly fat if your diet is not on point.
Yeah. You cannot, spot lose fat.
No.
Yeah. You just keep working out, keep showing up. Consistency rules all when it comes to fitness. So keep showing up, keep doing the work, and the results will come. And yeah, like Chase said, have a plan what you're doing. When you first get in there, maybe try a bunch of different things out, see what feels comfortable, what you like to do. Also think about what are the things in your life that you want to physically be able to accomplish. And there's lots of different, exercises and workouts that you can do that can feed towards that stuff. And then once you get excited about that, then we can kind of move on. And there's so many different workout plans out there. And I'll just plug one of my favorite podcasts that's kind of health and fitness is called Mind Pump.
Yes.
And the guys have so many different fitness plans. They're called MAPS. They I don't know how many. They probably have like 25 to 30 different plans for all different kinds of stuff. And I would highly recommend looking into theirs and buying one of their plans and just following it, just doing the work. All right. Well, that was another edition of the Consistency Engine podcast. Thanks again for joining us. And like I said before, we would appreciate if you subscribe, share the podcast, get some more followers. If you've taken away some good information from this, please leave us a review. 5-star review would be great. That way more people can find our podcast.
And comment if you want to message us. We're always available, but go get your pump on, and we'll see you soon.